Hi and good evening to everyone here. I am Anagha and I'll be hosting today's student talk on behalf of Proteus, the biology club of IISER TVM. Today, our speaker is Siddharth Shivanandan of Batch 17, lovingly known as Shivi. He's currently a graduate student at the Graduate School of Stowers Institute of Medical Research, Kansas City. He graduated this July with Batch 17 with a medal for the best undergraduate researcher in biology of his batch. He did his major project work in Dr. Ravi Marthuchalam's lab in collaboration with Dr. Inez Drinenberg from Institute Curie in France. He is also
Is it my internet? Is it your internet?
no, no. I think the institute internet is cutting.
Oh, okay, it's fine. Anyway, we'll stop Anaga from talking because it was getting a little bit getting shy. Chalo, she'll come.
Chalo. Yeah, Naga will come. Meanwhile, I think I'll carry forward with this. So, yeah, Shivi now is in Stowers Medical University pursuing his PhD. So, to begin with, Shivi, why don't you talk about your experiences with IISER? Just a rough thing to begin with. And by then, Anaga will join.
Good plan. I'll first thank Anaga formally because she formally thanked me also for everything. Honestly, IISER was a very good experience. Okay, so okay. So the thing about IISER, the BSMS program, I was in the BSMS program. There are many other programs now, and I know that you can be from the MSc program also. So I don't have much experience with the IPHD or MSc program, but I know it's very similar. Hi, Anaga.
I am back,
And
yes.
yeah, I thanked you already. And in general, the I think the best part about the BSMS program in IISER is that how it touches on like multiple bases and lets you experience all of it rather than just doing one particular specific thing. So my idea for today was to have a very casual little sit down where I'm sure everyone has like multiple questions, and if you don't have questions, it's nice if you just sit down and listen to other people's questions, and then you will get your own questions. Like that's how application season like worked for me. Like you just need to listen to what problems other people had, and then you realize that these are all problems that I will have. And yeah, so I had one slide. If you want to see, you can share that, and then we can. So maybe I'll put that on the screen. Mm, what is this? Sorry. Okay, can't do that. Ah, oops. Okay, I can't share that. But you guys start with questions. I'll figure out how to share. Throw one nice beginner question. Make it an easy one. Please don't. Okay, we'll do hand raising. Huh? Okay, Ira, what's your question?
Hi, Shivi.
I
Okay, so my question today is I wanted to know at what point did you sort of realize or decide that you wanted to do your major project under Ravi sir? Or
mm,
like what helped you kind of like hone in on like decide that okay, this is the place I want to spend my final years.
okay, that's actually a good question. Did not expect that one. Okay, so in the very beginning, I joined Ravi Sir's lab. I think I don't remember the year. It was in my second year. So I did a summer internship there, and at that point, I really enjoyed like the whole uh, more the lab environment than the work, and then I also got into the work as well. So then that sort of like worked hand in hand, and then I got to talk to like some of the PhDs, and they told me about how important like lab environment is. So I remember in like that first summer internship was when it sort of occurred to me how the it's not just what lab you're interested in, but it's like a complete package about how it's the lab and then the people and then the projects and then the PI and then all of it come together into like one sort of like bubble that you have to like appreciate in completion. And if you can't do that, then you won't have like the best time. And then in the middle, I wanted to do like a project outside the next summer. That's in my third year, but then COVID happened, and then after COVID, while COVID was happening, I kept in touch with Ravi sir, and I was like, okay, well, we'll come back in, in that time, everyone had like this positivity, like we'll come back in 6 months, or we'll come back in 4 months, and then we'll come back in 10 months, and then 1 year, and 1.5 years. So it kept going. So that sort of allowed me to keep in touch more because optimism. But doing all of that, then in the end, we only came back in fourth year, and but we couldn't do like a summer internship again. So it makes it sound like I was stuck in Ravi sir's lab because of COVID. But then the important part of this is that in that time when I was keeping in touch, I learned a lot more about what he's doing, and I got to like dive into the field a little bit better and understand a lot more about the other people in the questions that Ravi sir is involved with. So in that process, I actually decided that I would take this up for my major project, and I got more into the idea of like taking this up as something that I want to do in general, which is understanding centromeres and looking at it like genetically, so like genetics as well, and so things like that. Does that answer the question? It
Yeah,
became
I
very
guess it
anecdotal.
does. It does. Thank you.
No problem. Hi Shreya.
Hi. So, I think one of the things that sort of makes you stand out in IISER is the fact that you managed to do a major project half here and half outside the institute, which is not very common yet, right? So, my question was, how exactly did you manage to make that happen? So, what was like the things that needed to fall into place, the things that you needed to do to make sure that you were able to do like a cohesive major project despite being in two different labs under two different PIs?
So partly perseverance and partly the understanding of the school in general. So uh, I wasn't sure that it would be possible until like very close in my major project. So like even in fifth year, while we were trying to figure out like the paperwork and how this would happen and all of that. There was a very long time in my fifth year where I was like, okay, my project can go now in two directions. Like I can either go there and do that, or I will stay here and continue this. So you like people who were also in the lab with me. You can ask Anaga. She also she was helping out with my major project, and then because there was also that direction when I got to go, she took over like that part for a long time. So there was no real distinction with respect to the work per se. And what actually allowed like this entire phenomena to occur was had a lot to do with how the school of biology was also so conducive. Like they let me run from here to there and get paperwork, and I got to discuss with Ravi sir, and Murthy sir was very 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 important in this as well, where he also like told me like what kind of paperwork I will need and what kind of you know discussions I will need to have, and he helped me get my case up to like the director level and all of that. But more into it is also this slightly like never give up attitude, where for a very long time, while you don't know if it's going to happen or not, you just keep pushing for it and you keep like a backup option available.
Just two follow-up questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first one was, it's Archisha's question as well. Like, how did you convince uh, both Ravi sir here and Dr. Trinenberg to sort of co-work with each other? And the second question was, how closely, like, did the two projects meld into each other? Was it like a seamless continuation of whatever you were working on? Is it a slightly different thing that you had to integrate separately?
So, very importantly, Ines and Ravi sir are both extremely nice people, and that is why it worked, because they were fine with me being one stray boat in between of their labs. So that is the most important part, because I think the PIs being okay with this entire thing is what allowed for it to happen. If the PIs themselves had opposing ideas or were not happy with this, then they wouldn't have happened in the first place. So, so Ines for the longest time was Ines is who I worked with in Curie. For the longest time, she was super supportive, and she still is. Like once in a while when I email, she'll just be like, "1 second, stretch my legs." She'll just be like, "Yes, we'll do ideas, storming, and all of that." So it's great fun. Uh, big recommendation for the lab, by the way, if anyone is looking for like some going out somewhere. Ravi Sir's lab also. If you're looking for someone who will like help you out, check that. But post shout out, I will also say that um, the fact that they both understood that this is in one part a like a project that we could do, and in another part an experience that like it would be very difficult if I would have missed it. So they also understood that it's very important for undergrads to get experience in different labs. So they were very supportive in that front as well. So they allowed me to get this experience, and it wouldn't have been possible without their understanding. And how I kept in touch was I was supposed to go to Ines's lab in summer, and then I can blame COVID again. COVID is a good excuse, by the way. Just keep it in your back pocket. I'm realized with like two questions I just said COVID. But yeah, COVID happened, couldn't go there, and kept in touch again, and slowly realized like, I wanted to go in my third year summer, couldn't go. Fourth year summer, couldn't go. Then fifth year, someone brought up that other institutes also have this collaborative scene, and we could do a collaborative scene because I think we got an email also about it. Not saying that this is a collaborative effort, but talking about another institute which IISER has like an MOU with, and then uh, just by talking about the idea. So you should not be afraid to like talk about the idea, even if it's not on paper. You can always bring something up, and I think School of Biology is very nice for that, because they're very accepting about ideas, and they're very easy to like go to, very approachable people. I think School of Biology has, and I don't know about the other schools because I don't have that much experience about it. I'm sure they also have very approachable people. Just putting it out there as well, all school friendly. But yeah, so I kept in touch with them, and they were both very helpful and very understanding about the fact that this would be a good experience for me, and that sort of allowed them to stay on topic and stay on the same page with one another. The project, however, I had to make that something that could that both of them could work on together. So they both work on a broad umbrella sort of topic of centromere biology, and it was up to me to sort of come up with something that takes into account plant centromeres and holocentromeres that Ines works on. So coming up with the project per se, that's on you. That's the work that you have to put in. You can't expect the PIs to also be like, yeah, you can come to my lab, and yeah, I will give you a project, and yeah, we'll make the project something that both the labs can work on. No, that often doesn't happen. Or if it does happen, then like that's very lucky. But you should also I also put some effort into it, where you take both of the labs focuses and put them together and make one amalgamation of a project.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Anaga, you're taking charge of the questions. There's some in chat.
Yeah, yeah.
How did I
So
convince? Shisha.
the
Did
chat
that answer
is
the question
just
about the how did I convince? I think it did. Unless you wanted like specifics. Okay.
So
What's
I
more?
think until we wait for the next question, we can take a general question which today's talk is meant to address. So if you could talk us through the general process of which year you start thinking about your PhD applications, which year you start finding places, when, where, all of those, the big
Okay.
questions.
The easy questions, the ones that you can prepare
Yeah.
for and come. Good, we'll do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So preparing for, like, you have to first decide whether you want to do a PhD. I mean, that's number one. Then after you do that, and that is a very very big decision because that's sort of dedicating a lot of your life into. So you decide whether or not you want to do a PhD or you want to do like industry or teach, and there's so many other options, but we're not discussing that today. And once you know that this is like academia is what you want to do, then you can sort of decide where you want to work, because this the good part about IISER is that there's so much that you're exposed to. There's so many labs, there are talks that happen all the time, so you get like an exposure to different fields, different questions being answered, different professors. And once you know roughly, at least what I did, again, you don't have to follow this, but this, again, I'm just telling you what I did, and you can pick yours, whatever's nice, do like some selective understanding. But uh, so once I understood like roughly what field I was interested in, then I started looking into talks of that field. So again, COVID with its remoteness of everything allowed people to go into like different talks because they were all online and they became free. So that was like a big bonus. And I think many of these talks now also are online and free. Sorry, I think the rain is making some noise. Is the voice fine?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So then during these talks you get to see like the speakers, and you get to like see other labs that are working on the same field, because talks in most cases are based on one theme. And when you attend a talk on a particular theme that you're interested in, you see like other people who are interested in this what do you call it, field. So then in that process, then after that you can see where they are, what institutes they're in, and then the emailing process starts. So the exact when, I would say fourth year-ish, when I was sure I'll be going into Ravi sir's lab, I sort of knew that I'll do a PhD and I'll be interested in going into the field that I was in. And then, but it was only in fifth year when I sort of saw like what labs I'll be interested in and what universities I wanted to join. That said, you don't have to start so early, because I know that it's very difficult for you to figure out what interests you, and whether or not you want to do a PhD in the first place. But there are deadlines anyway, which includes like for many places in the US, the deadlines are like towards the end of your first semester in fifth year. So sometime around November end, December first second week is when the forms for the US usually close. So that's coming up now. I don't know if you guys, is like maybe a small reminder for some of you, but uh, that is when the US forms close. For Europe, it's a little more loosey, where in many places you can just apply to the labs themselves. So you can send emails to the labs, and they have the inlet is like year round. So you will have like a ad hoc meeting with like a committee, and they would assess whether or not you're worth investing in for doing a PhD. That's basically what an interview is. And uh, yeah, so but then some places in the Europe do have deadlines. Like I know Edinburgh and some places in the UK, they have specific deadlines and cutoffs. So you need to check out once you know what field you want, once you know what interests you, once you know the people who interest you, then you can see the universities, then you can check out the deadlines. So that's like a nice order to keep in mind. I forgot who was answering the question. Oh, it was a random one. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so that does answer the question. We have another question from Vartika, which asks, you had said that we need to figure out a project that works for us. but how does one know whether what one has thought is doable and logical? So
Yeah, so I think here I misspoke a little bit when I said that we need to figure out what works for us. I mean, like, you need to do some thinking, but then a discussion will happen with your PIs, and then they will tell you whether it's doable, whether it's logical, and whether it makes sense, and all of that. So it's not just like you throw ideas at them and they'll be like, it's not a very binary scene where they'll just be like yes or no. It's a discussion, and personally speaking, if you can have a discussion with your PIs, then you already know that that should be one of the checkpoints of whether or not you want to join that lab, because you need to be open to like talking about other ideas. At least I find that as one of the checkpoints. Did you face difficulties in your experiment, like them not working? Experiments never work. That's the first answer. And how do you deal with them? You just keep trying. Experiments won't work. At least my experiments,
you
they
get
were.
an intern to do them.
Sorry?
You get an intern to keep doing them till they work.
Yes. Yes, if you can find one good one. If you can't, then deal with what you have. But but yeah, experiments, they are not, at least like, I mean, some places, yeah, I mean, you'll get like, if an experiment works, then it works, and if it doesn't work, then you keep trying, and you keep like, figuring it out. You'll have like a PhD advisor also, someone who you're working with, and they'll have like more insights, and then you'll tinker around and you'll figure out what's wrong, and you'll do a bunch of controls, and there's like a bunch of steps that you need to do for troubleshooting. But you don't need to be down that an experiment didn't work, unless it was like a very expensive experiment and you're the person who messed up. Then you can be a bit down. But if it wasn't your fault, then it's okay.
And then there's also the fact that an experiment not working is in and of itself a sort of result, right?
Correct, but that's like for those unsure experiments. I'm thinking in the line of like, my PCR didn't work. Like, what? Change the temperature. Yeah. But yes, what Imamshi said is also absolutely correct. Like, an experiment not working is also like a result in itself. Everything is data. There's like small lines that people have said throughout the years that just like ring in your head when you think about it. Like, oh, everything is data, or stuff like that. Let's go next question. We're going at a very good pace. It's been like half an hour. I did like 5 questions. Yes, sir, Ira. I don't think you need to raise your hand.
Oh no, I just didn't want to like randomly interrupt you or someone else. Okay, I have a bit of like a sad but serious question to ask. So I get often confused about like funding with respect to PhD programs, at least in the US. I don't know. So like, I guess question more specifically, is there like a tuition fee for the whole or part of the PhD program? And is that like forgiven, or like what's the scene with that?
It depends on your program. Some places have tuition fees which you have to pay out of your stipend. Some places have tuition fees which are paid off by the program. So I'm in a very nice program, and I'm quite lucky to say that my tuition fee has been paid by my graduate school, so they take care of my tuition fee. But there are also many programs where they don't take care of your tuition fee, and you need to then figure out, and that's where the conversation with the PI takes importance here. So you'll send them an email much before you applying into the university, and you'll ask whether or not there's like a position for doing a PhD, because you don't know whether or not the lab can accommodate a new PhD. And then in that conversation, when they are like happy with you and you're done with all the interview and the stressful part, then you can talk about all the miscellaneous things where they'll tell you that, okay, this is the system, this is how it works, we'll give you this, and then this will go in your tuition fee, and then you'll talk to other PhDs and you'll ask if like this is enough, and then should I apply to other grants, and all of these conversations are all very normal. You need to understand that like, even though it is known to be difficult, it is livable. Like, there are people doing it, so there are options that you can explore, and just by talking and by bringing it up is how you will get to know. Otherwise, in many cases, you just won't know what's going on. And
I had like another question that's like completely unrelated to this, but let's say let's say someone is interested in a field, but no one in IISER or like in school of biology works on it. So maybe things that are like sort of remotely or vaguely related. So what would you think would be a good way to sort of, I guess, deal with that like conflict where you have an
Find
interest but no one
find a
particularly
specialist.
works on it there?
Yeah. Find a specialist, email them, get your questions answered, and that will be the first part. So that's how you like get into the field itself. And IISER now has opportunities where you can explore working in those labs, like either in summer or in your major project and all of that. And that's when you take that to your advantage, use the resources that are available, and get your interests driven. Mostly just email, just send those emails. It doesn't matter. Don't get replies on the reminder email. If you don't get a reminder email reply, email the postdoc or the PhD and be like, hey, I'm trying to email and I'm trying to figure something out. Please help me. Just
If like I'm terrible that way, like I'll write half an email, stare at it for 30 minutes, and then never press send. And then I'll get upset and I'm like, oh man, why aren't people emailing me back?
yeah. You have to get over that hump. You like send those emails.
And I guess like one of the ways I was thinking about or I had thoughts about a major project is that, say, even if you're not particularly or like completely invested in whatever field a lab is working on, does it sort of make sense to think of it as like a stepping stone? So maybe the techniques that that lab is using are useful to maybe the field that you eventually want to work in, and sort of you think of
Absolutely.
it. Is that like
Yes,
a productive way to think of it, or is it kind of like, oh, if you're not interested in the work, you will never be able to like complete a year-long project?
it is. It completely makes sense. I don't know. I mean, the idea that whatever you do in your major project will be what you do for the rest of your life is very restrictive. I mean, and you don't want to be restrictive in science. You want to be open to ideas. You want to be open to doing something new every time, because then it becomes interesting. I mean, you don't want to be stuck answering the same questions forever. I
Yeah.
mean, if you then I mean, go for it. But if you don't want to, and the at least what I see it as the more fun way of doing it is just like exposing yourself to different things all the time until you just shouldn't anymore. But while you're doing that, your major project need not be what you're going to work on for your PhD. Not at all. It can be something that tailors your experiences. It can be something that allows you to learn different tools and different techniques, and it can like what do you call it, magnify your skill set, and then you can advertise that as something that you did for your major project. You can say that I learned all of these techniques, and I know that all of these techniques can be used to answer your question. So let's talk about it. Let's figure it out, and maybe you can consider me in your lab and things like that. So there are different aspects of a major project. There's the field, there's the techniques that you're going to be exposed to, there's the fact that you'll be working in a lab and you'll be working with people. So all of these things can be brought up when you're talking to a PI or when you're applying to a particular program, because these are the kind of things that they're looking for. They're not looking for someone who's like an expert in the field. They're looking for someone who they can teach and who's ready to learn. So I remember there was one very important saying which I keep thinking about every once in a while, even now, where a friend of mine told me that it's not that important to be like a specialist in that particular field, but now I like to think that it's more important that you can learn. Like you need to be able to learn more than you need to be learned, if that makes sense. So if you're
That makes
someone like
sense.
learn and you can like know how to pick up topics and think in a particular like manner, that itself is like a big boon.
Yeah. Yeah, Ria says damn Shivi.
Yeah,
That is deep.
some wisdom is coming out. I think
Yeah.
it's
We're
eight
headed
o'clock
to that part of the talk now.
night, and all of this the previous day gets out of you. This is wisdom also in the same
Yeah.
sense.
But that's a helpful way to like think about it. Thank you.
Mm.
I feel better now.
That's what today is for. Start the new week with like a nice feeling. You can ask feel good questions also. I know things about the mess that you may not know if people are new.
We're not incriminating anything over a recorded call.
the mess is not incriminating. I actually like the mess, especially after coming here and I have to make tea on my own. Ugh. I had to wake up 1 hour early. I asked you to call me 1 hour early so I can make tea. Otherwise, I would have woken up like 15 minutes before. But tea needs like half an hour, no? Because to do that up and down thing. Ritika. Specific skills or experience and made you stand out as an applicant. Yeah. that's why I got through. Okay. Yeah, so specific skills, you need to advertise these in your SOP. When you apply, you will have to either send a statement of purpose or a motivational letter. They call it different things. They call it a cover letter, motivational letter. Sometimes they don't even call it anything. They give you one field and they like talk about your interests. So specific skills would be things that you need to get into like the mindset of a person who's looking at like 1,000 of applications, and they're thinking like, okay, who do I get into my PhD program? And in general, different graduate programs have different intake numbers, and also you need to look into if they're open to, like, if you're flying like abroad, you need to look into whether or not like they have good international funding, because international funding is one separate business. They have to pay for your visa and everything, so it's a bit expensive. So you need to look into like how much of international funding, how much normal funding, and all of that. And when you're doing that, they'll ask, so in your application they'll ask you to like talk about what skills you have, and they'll ask you like what papers you have and all of that. But in many cases it's a bit, I don't know, it's not very nice that they always need you to have a paper, which is not very fair for undergrads in my opinion. But it is what it is. So maybe if you get a paper, it'll be easier. It's an evil that you have to work with at this point. But even without a paper, I've seen many people get like really good PhD, like get into a good PhD program, and I don't think that's that important, but it is a good bonus to have. It's always a good bonus to have. So when you're applying, you need to talk about what questions you already answered, like what experiences you have. Even your first year, the ecology project, that is also like you doing a project, you answering a question. So you need to talk about that. You need to talk about what skills you have. You need to talk about what interests you in that particular lab. So when you're applying to like a program, you would keep one particular lab or maybe even two labs in mind, and you would highlight that. You talk about, yeah, in this particular lab I like this PI and he or she works on these topics, which I find really interesting. And it'll be nice if you can also throw in a question. So many people, when they apply, they just say that they just use the adjectives. They're just like, this PI is excellent and they have phenomenal work, and just all the big words they'll throw in, but they're not really talking about what they're interested in. So it's much easier to keep it simple, and you talk about in that lab what you're interested in and what questions you think would be fun to work on. And those questions need not even make sense, because you're asking a question from an outside perspective. Does that answer your question, Ritika? Or do I need to go into more detail? I can go into more detail. There are a lot of SOP questions coming up, so we'll do it in one go. Throw all your SOP questions in the chat and we'll finish it off. Tips to impress your potential PhD supervisor. You don't need to impress your PhD supervisor. You need to first be impressed by your PhD supervisor, because you'll be working with them. That is the most important mindset that I've realized you need to take up, because I also had this thought that you need to stand out to them, and if they like you, that means you're done. But then you need to like the PhD advisor as well, because you'll be in this relationship, this working relationship, for as long as your PhD goes on, and you want it to be a good relationship. So the ways that you can stand out your PhD supervisor is just by being interested. As far as I've seen, many PIs, they look for people who are interested in their work, who are curious, all the basic scientist characteristics. How you can you are willing to ask questions, you're open to like a discussion. So these kind of things are always good skills to have. So being able to talk science just with them when you have like a chit chat and an interview and all that, and in that process you need to show that you're interested in their work and you know a little bit of what's going on. You don't need to know like everything, but it's always good to read like one or two decent papers and be in the whole like uh, your mind is like tailored to that particular field. And when you have questions, they will see that you're interested and just reply back to emails on time. Simple things like that. Be courteous. Okay, we're doing SOPs. Mediocre GPA with work experience, exceptional GPA with lesser work experience. Both are fine depending on how you advertise it. Your SOP is yours. You can have X particular skill sets and Y particular bad qualities, but then you need to write about it in a way that they look at you as someone who is interested, because I would assume that when you're writing an SOP, you are interested to join the lab. So you need to just like write that down. So you can have like a decent GPA and you can have like exceptional work experience. But if you write about it saying that, hi sir, I'm just interested and I want to work in your lab, you probably would not be read further. But if you can write down your experiences and you can write about how you want and you feel like this PhD experience would help you a lot, then that when that comes across to the PI, then in many cases they consider the application a bit more. So GPA, it is important because it is an initial cutoff. Of course, when you get like thousands of applications, you need some way to like threshold it so that you only have to read maybe 40 or 50. So a decent GPA is always recommended. I like to think 8.5 is like a good number to have. But if you don't have it, it's completely fine because you can write about why you don't have it. And in many cases, they do read it. So then we'll jump into Vignesh. Okay, we'll jump into SOP and then we'll do Vignesh. So SOP guidelines, like I said already, it's an advertisement of why you are interested in joining that lab. So what you write in your SOP is important because you need to come across as someone who wants to work in that lab genuinely and is interested in the program. So you need to tailor your SOP to the lab and to the institute as well, because in many cases that same SOP the PI will forward to the school and then they will also read it. So multiple people are reading the same SOP. And SOP guidelines are generally provided on the website that you're applying to. So always do your background research. See whether they want a 1-page or a 2-page SOP. Adding images to your SOP while not written in the fine print is actually a possibility. So that is very fun. Put some colorful images. I like doing that. You don't need to, but it's nice. Go on Canva and just make some nice images. And you can just add it to your SOP and it always stands out. It also helps you save on some words because 3 paragraphs can sometimes be pushed into 1 image. So that is good. Most people don't do that, and it's a little secret, I guess. I don't know. I did it. It worked. And apart from that, get your SOP read by as many people as possible. Irritate your the lab PhDs. I remember I went to Mohit Bhai a lot with my SOP. Like he helped me tremendously. He read and then reread it, and then I made changes, and then some changes I didn't like, so I didn't make it, and I gave it to him, and he sent it back with the same change. I was like, okay, fine, I'll change that also. So just keep having your SOP read by as many people as possible, so that you get maximum eyes onto your work, and like the more people that look at your writing and say that it is good, then the better you feel firstly, so that you're like more confident in pressing send. Like Ira said, like you'll have one half email and then you just won't send it because it's so scary to send PhD application. I checked the dear whatever his name is like 10 times because I know sometimes I mess up the spelling of the name. Like yesterday only I messed up the spelling of one PI's name here, and I was so embarrassed because it's such an embarrassing problem to have, like messing their name up. So don't do that. It sucks. But apart from that, just get your writing read by as many people as possible. You can ask multiple PIs. You don't only have to ask your supervisor, your major project supervisor, or your PhD supervisor to read your SOP. You can just send them an email saying, hey, I'm applying to other places. I want to have my SOP read and I would like to know your thoughts. And then take all of those thoughts, rewrite it. And So the SOP is actually like the most time consuming part of the application. It took mine took like 2 months, I think, something around 2 months. And that's like the short amount of time because I was very invested in having it done as soon as possible. I kept going and rewriting and going and rewriting. But in general, if you start early, you can take your time and you can get more people to look at it. And while doing that, it'll slowly, at one point, you'll realize, oh, this is a good SOP. And then when you realize a good SOP, my recommendation is stop having people look at it because then you don't want any more changes. Because after some point, more changes is just more headache. And you don't want that also. So you need to do it in like the minimum stress manner. So at one point when you feel like, okay, this is ready, then you make a personal call. You're like, okay, I'm just going to stop here. This is my SOP and now this is ready. And you can do the same for the cover letter. The cover letter is sort of the email body, I like to think of it. So when you send an email to like a PhD supervisor, potential PhD supervisor, you'll have like in a D&D attachment, you'll have the CV, the motivational letter, SOP, and then the email body will be the cover letter, which in all reality is just the SOP, but then like shortened a little bit. But it needs to have some points. It needs to talk. It needs to be like a good primer for them sort of clicking the attachment. So they'll be like, okay, let's read more about this fellow. So does that answer? I'm not going to scroll up because there's so many things now.
I think there's one more question by Yash asking how to format an SOP while applying to a program like Max Planck EMBL, where you don't have a specific subfield interest and you have a broad interest or a couple of areas in biology.
Talk about it. Talk about what interests you. Talk about the formatting can be whatever you want. It needs to be. You need to understand that it needs to be easy for them to read it. So while you may have like so much information that you want to tell them, you're just like one excited puppy. I want to tell them all of these things. You can't just do that sometimes. You need to be like selective and be like, okay, I'll tell them about this, this, and that, and that's it. And you need to pick your best qualities. You need to say that I'm good at these things, and you need to make it like a sort of myriad. I don't know. I wanted to use that word, but you need to make it like a nice assortment of skills. So you need to talk about how, like for me, I gave one small section about how I was in Proteus and club activities. So they'd see that he's doing like extracurricular things and he likes people and all that. And I put one small section about a much bigger section about research experiences because that's what the whole thing is about. So in that also you can write about multiple research experiences. You can talk about like your major project, your minor project. You can also talk about your first year project. Sometimes that is like you get some cool shit out of that. Like we did spiders versus ants, and I was like, oh, you can talk about how it's your first outlook into research and the whole hypothesis driven activity you're doing for the rest of your life. So the format per se is completely up to you. You can have like text, image, text. You can have text. You can have like, you can make it as per what you want. As long as the PDF is the correct size, they will read it. So that's the most important part. Send the correct size of PDF because they'll have a PDF specification, and if it's not the correct size, it's not like they will not open it. I don't think it goes through the system. I think it's like a technological situation.
So I think this is SOP question, which is
sometimes I don't understand whether format means like the way it's structured or format means a more technical definition.
Yeah, I think Yash can answer that.
Hey, you guys
but
talk
while
also, no? Like me and Anaga are reading and doing it. So then, and as if it's going on YouTube, it's so difficult for the person on YouTube also. Like they'll just see me answering a bunch of questions. There are already problems in this, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's one more question, which is when did you start your career?
Hello, Siddharth.
Yes.
Sorry, my mic has some problem earlier. So I actually typed out a lot of questions. Sorry to.
I saw.
Actually, so the last question which Anaga read for my side, there was one 3 questions upside related to the cover letter and the word limit stuff. Can you just give a brief about it? There is this confusion regarding cover letter, SOP, and motivation letter. It's just confusing terms. Sometimes it is synonymous, synonyms of
Yeah. It is confusing. I completely get it. It's confusing
So you can
when
just like overview of it, and I guess other people will also get some
yeah.
information.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Thanks.
It is very confusing. So SOP and motivational letter, most of the time they're used synonymously. Cover letter is like a shortened version of a SOP. So my SOP was like 2 pages long. My cover letter was 1 page long. That is my idea. Sometimes also cover letter can be the email body. So the cover letter is more, like I said, it's more like what attracts the whoever is reading your work to click on the attachments. So the cover letter should be like a synopsis of your SOP, and the SOP is all about you. It's just one big advertisement about who you are, what you like, why you want to be here, things like that. So the SOP should be the longer, sort of more in-depth things about you, and a cover letter can be a little bit more about why you're interested. So it can be more about the PI, it can be more about the work, and it can be what you think they're looking for, so that they will now understand that you're interested in the lab, and then they will, to read more about me, click on my SOP kind of thing. So that is how I understood the cover letter and SOP sort of technique. But then again, you need to make sure that different institutes have different rules. Some institutes, they don't even ask for a cover letter and SOP. I remember for the Stowers here, there was no cover letter and SOP scene. There was only one CV attachment, and everything else was given in like specific fields, which you had to like type in that web page, and they had character limits. So you need to look into what that particular university is asking about, and that is one thing that you'll have to do well before, so that you don't spend like 6 months and you're making like an excellent SOP, and then you go into the university portal and you're like, oh, I can't send an attachment, I have to send like a specific, I don't know, 350 characters paragraph, and then you have to like rework your wording, and you have to make it smaller, and which is the most irritating thing. Making something smaller is the most yucky thing you can do, because you're just like deleting all your experiences. You're like, no, this maybe is not important. So one ego you get hit. But apart from that, uh, so always make sure that you look into what that university is looking for, understand what limitations they have put forward for you, because they are looking for like short text which immediately attract them. So then in those cases, when you're condensing all of your experiences there, you can use what do you call it, those big words to like make it coalesce nicely. So you can put like multiple sentences into one, and you can remove like extra sentences. So that is where you need to keep into mind that there will be multiple reviews of one SOP. You'll have like one main SOP, and then you'll have like different things for like different universities, which are more tailored to that particular website that you're working on. So the EMBL or Max Planck one, I did not apply to these, so I don't know much about what they are asking for. But if they have like a word limit situation, or in most cases they'll have a page limit thing, or a file size limit. So in those cases you have to work on that. So like images make the file a bit bigger, so maybe in your SOP you'll like make the image small or delete the image and things like that. Yeah. Amruta had some plans about Max Planck. She has it in the thing. You can check that out as well. Please let me know if I didn't answer the question. Ira, you can ask yours also. And if I missed some question, I know Vignesh wrote something, but then I lost it in the whole thing. So just type it again if you can't say it, or do what Ira is doing and raise your hand, which makes things so much nicer. Go for it, Ira, please.
Shivi, what is your favorite part of studying biology?
Oh, my favorite part of studying biology? Okay.
Yeah, let's go into the deep and fun questions now.
Let's get personal. Let me pull my laptop closer.
Yeah.
I think so. Favorite part of studying biology? It's like there's so many answers, and then like half of them are wrong answers, half of them are right answers. I think I like the fact that there's so many questions, but then there are also questions in other fields. So I'm going to answer it because I like biology and I understand biology. So that was the first beginning to like why I like biology. And then after that, I saw that, whatever I liked and whatever I was interested in had so many holes. Like There's so many things people don't know. We're doing like first, second year as if like, oh, so many things are known, and then you come into the third, fourth year, and they're like, so many things are not known, and that itself is very interesting. So that is a big part of why I like doing science in general. It's just that you're just answering a question. Like you can sort of like simplify the entirety of like research into just saying that you like one question and you're just answering it. So if you like, I don't know, like right now I'm doing a module in genetics, so you can do like I like genetics, so I'm answering a question in genetics, and that's all I'm doing. So why I like biology specifically, it is partly to do with like I understand biology a little bit better, and I've always been in touch with biology. So at home also, like me and my dad, when I was much younger, we'd sit and we'd talk about, like, he was also very into biology, so we'll read textbooks together and stuff like that. It was very cute, and that sort of like stemmed like a small understanding to me liking biology a bit more. But then I also like math. Uh, yeah, I can't say the same for the others, but I like math and biology for like a very long time. And then I liked biology a bit more. So that's why I really like IISER, because it let you like funk around with like multiple different things, and you get to like dip your toes in all the different fields and see whether or not you like it. And now with this I-square business, you can dip your toes in like the combination, which is even more fun.
For me,
Ira, I'll
at
just
least,
answer.
like,
Did
oh, sorry.
I answer your question? Sorry? I'm hoping it answered it, but then if it didn't answer, then you can ask me again, and then we'll get into it better. Shreya, I will answer Vignesh's question because I said his name too many times, and I finally found a question again. Authorship in a paper is important because it's like a something cool. You're in science, paper is important. So it does hold good regard that you worked on a project and you have something to show for it, like a tangible result that you did some research. But it's not the only thing that they're looking for, and they also understand that like undergraduate authorship, unless it's like a first authorship, which by itself is very rare but also very impressive. So if that's happening for you, push for that. While that may not always be the case, being on the line of a paper means that you did help out in the project and you were involved with like the questions and the churning of the experiments and all of that, and that the paper in your CV is what do you call it? It's like a variable of that particular characteristic. So it's like, oh, okay, fine, he's got this experience set. But if you so knowing that all of this is sort of represented with like an authorship in a paper means that the other way is also possible. If you don't have an authorship in a paper, you can talk about how you have all of those experiences. So that then it goes into your SOP. You can talk about how you're involved in like different projects, how you are involved in answering different questions, and then it sort of like ticks out all of the experiences that you would have if you had a paper. So that way you can show it in two different ways, and while it'll take up more space in your SOP, it also shows that it also looks a bit more impressive because you're going to talk about like that particular question that you were answering and then the different experiments you did, and that tailors into like what skills you have and things like that. So it is important, and it is something that people look into, but it's not the only thing that it's not like a make or break kind of thing. Thank you for being here, Vignesh. I didn't think you'll come. Is there any time to play? Shreya.
Hi, Shivi. This is Akshita.
Oh, hi, Akshita.
Why
aren't you using your phone?
No, I just woke up. The internet doesn't work in my room. So I'm safe.
I also just woke up.
Yeah, so my question was,
Yes.
when did you start the paperwork for your major project outside? Like, did you start it in fourth year, or like, is it
Yes.
a year-long commitment, or how much time does it take?
So I
Especially with
started.
IISER.
Sorry?
Especially with IISER, like the admin paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it means with paperwork. I don't have any other paperwork other than
You
admin
didn't have to
paperwork.
do anything
Because
for
the project.
in like with the Paris people.
Oh yeah. But okay. So you mean like both the
Yeah.
admins? Yeah. So for me, Paris was a bit lucky because they had like an HR department, so I just had to send it to them, and then they would do things for me, like because they work in French and I don't know French, so I sent it to an HR who spoke English, and then she talked to the French people for me. But in IISER, I do quite a bit of running around, a lot of printing, lot of walks between Ravi's lab and the academic office. So that running happened once in a while. When the floor is wet, you have to be careful and stuff. So it took me to one semester, I guess. One semester of time it took. So that's why like it went into my major project where in that time where I was not sure whether or not it would be possible. So when did we start our major project? Was it June? Could someone confirm? Was it July? No. Anyway, it was in the middle of the year. So I started towards the end of my minor project. I was tinkering with the question. I'll go to Murthy sir and be like, "Oh, by the way, I have this opportunity. What do you think?" And Ravi was on board 100%. He was like, "Yeah, you figure it out, and then we will send you." So he's very nice that way. But we had to figure out the admin part of it. So around uh, February, April, I remember asking this question every once in a while and just putting it in their heads that, oh, something is happening. And then the paperwork began to be churned out, like because things got a bit more serious and we had to get like signatures. And so it took me roughly 6 months. But that being said, now it's super easy. Like now there's like a full paper trail that you can follow. So there's an MOU set. You just need to like send an email to I think this is true. I don't know. Confirm for me. Don't just think that it's super easy. Do it a bit before. Like spend the end of fourth year thinking about this and talk to like Dean Acad and talk to who else will you talk to? Yeah, first talk to Dean Acad. Dean Acad is the first person you want to talk to. Before your PI. So you talk to your PI, then you talk to your Dean Acad, and then you understand the possibilities, and then start throwing paper at people.
Yeah, that answers
Yeah.
my question. So like end of fourth year should be
I
just
think in physics, if you sorry.
End of fourth year is a good time.
Yeah.
Roughly, maybe a bit before the end. Mostly because you'll also have like your minor project presentation or exams coming up. So
Yeah.
a little bit before will be nice so that your peace of mind. I think February is a good time to start. I like the idea of February. I remember something happened in February. Ira, you were saying something about physics. Tell no.
Oh yeah, I was saying that in case someone is interested in doing something like that, but in School of Physics, they can talk to Praveen from Batch 18. So he's doing like a portion of his major project outside IISER. So in case that's relevant, you may want to speak to him as well.
It is. It is. So people who text me, I'll say go to Praveen now. Thank you. No. Please feel free to share. I have one slide with my number and everything on it. It's not sharing. We'll do it later. But yeah, so talk to people who have done it before. That's a very big thing. Talk to people who have done stuff like this before so that you can understand what problems and all they face. Just go and talk to people. Even the most mundane part of biology is absolutely insane. Yeah, man. Yeah. Small things like restriction digestion also, if you think about it molecularly, you'll see like, oh, there's some scissors coming and then they'll cut the DNA this way and then primers will attach. Blows your mind. Yeah.
So we can
Let's
do
go
something. There are a couple of questions in the chat, so we'll quickly go over them. I don't want to leave them hanging.
Yeah. Arshisha, you please annoy me as much as required. I will reply at my
Yes.
own convenience and then we'll get things done.
So there is one of Archisha's question, which is how many places did you apply to and how many did you get accepted in? Like she wants a percentage.
Percentage answer? Okay. See, now if I tell you and then you'll stop this talk because now he's not really good. No, I applied. I didn't apply that many places. Unfortunately, I spent a lot of my time. Like I started because I was doing like the collaborative masters and also applying for PhD at the same time. It was a little bit stressful on me, so I didn't get enough time to work on enough SOPs. So that's the honest truth. I didn't apply to enough places. I applied to initially I applied to like 5 places, and if you want the names, I can tell you it was the Stowers, it was University of Washington, it was Edinburgh. There's one more in the UK. I cannot remember.
Oxford.
Oxford. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Oxford and Switzerland, University of Geneva. So these places I applied to, and out of that, my percentage is 20%, 1 in 5, which is where I am right now. It's very, yeah. But then that's what. So if you apply to more places, you'll get more opportunities. So apply to as many as possible, but also think about how your applications need to be exactly. Yeah, one who will do 2 PhDs. Well, then think about how you can spread yourself, because each SOP, if you want, like it shouldn't be like. So a lot of people have this ideology that you send as many as possible, and then whatever sticks, the whole pollination theme, whatever sticks will become, I don't know, a baby, a fruit, your PhD. And that is a good theme to have, but then you need to also understand that each of these applications need to be good applications. You can't just send really shitty applications, because then you'll just be one among a million shitty applications, and then all of them are discarded in one go. But each of your applications need to be really worth looking at, and that requires time. That requires time and effort, and that sort of limits the number of applications that you can send. So my idea is like send. I'm being quoted. Send as many applications as you can, but send good applications. So spend time on the applications as well, but also check out as many as you can. So get as many done before November. That's a good time to finish off all the US applications. Most of them close in November. Scripts and all, everything they what do you call it, portals, they close around that time. So end of November, have as many applications as you can ready, and have like a process to your working. So like if you have like a way that you figure out where you want to go, then when you do it, it becomes more mainstream, like looking at the lab, emailing the PI, understanding its availability, working on the SOP, and then sending the application. So like you have one thing, then for different applications, the protocol to do, and that saves some time. That's also a good plan to have. It's for the August intake, the one that I had now. So the August intake is November. The January intake, Archisha, I think you can apply to that because you're done with your MSc, or you're doing your MSc now, so you have that advantage. I don't know when the cutoff is. I will find out, and just remind me. I can find out for you. I'll text some people and find out. But I don't know right now. I'm sorry. But that is something that you can consider because you're an IPA, MSc student. So January intake is something that you can do. It wasn't something that we could do because we graduate in June, so we could only come in August or the next Jan, which I didn't want to do. I don't want to be stuck and not have a place to go.
And there is one question in the middle that asks why you wanted, like why do you want to do it?
Why do I want to do a PhD? It's the only thing I know how to do. Like I spent a long time studying, and I like studying, and I was like, okay, I'll just do this. So it's what interests me. It's what I like doing, and so PhD is a lot like, it's a big dedication, right? I mean, saying that I'm going to go to the US for like 5 years, it scares you a little bit, and then you come there and you're telling people you're here for 5 years, and it scares you some more. But while being scared, you can also know that you're going to be exposed to so many great minds. Like another part of why I want to do a PhD is like while doing all the courses and all, you read papers about all these like big guys, and then you can apply to their labs and you can see them in person. So it's like meeting your favorite authors. You're like, oh, hi, like I read your entire paper and I loved it. And then they'll also be like, oh, you read my paper, thank you. So it's a very nice, cute moment. So that is also why I want to do a PhD. Like I got to meet these people, I got to talk to them, and then then you can to collaborate with them, and then maybe you don't like them so much after that. Yeah, but that's like university specific. We can do a Stowers advertisement later also. They're printed journals here. Come join Stowers.
That's pretty much the questions from the chat box. We can be open to any audience questions. You all can unmute and ask.
They're
Or
all scared.
if it's done, we can slowly wind up.
We can wind up also. Hi,
Yes,
Harshini.
Harshini.
Hi, Shivi.
Hello.
How's
how are
the
you?
US?
Things are good, yeah. I just woke up. I want to brush my teeth after this. How are you?
Are you cooking now?
Is that your question? That's
No.
a very good question.
That is an initial.
No, that's what I want to answer. No, that now first that's the question. Yes, I am
Too
cooking now.
much of time.
Yeah, I'm doing grocery
Scare me.
shopping. Go a nice Asian market. Go to get nice groceries. I've been making food. It's been fun. I made dal a few days ago. It came very nicely. I decided to put curry leaves inside. Tasted amazing. Yeah.
Did you go thrifting yet?
No, I didn't go thrifting yet because I'm too busy with other things. But thrifting is in the list. Yeah. I'm a bit scared about thrifting here, but because it's in like this dodgy place or the city, and I don't want to get mugged.
Fair enough.
Okay,
So
ask it.
the question that I had was like, so right now, like I know I'm interested in bio as a whole, like as a subject, it like really fascinates me, right? But then I don't have anything that really like calls out my name, like, ooh, like this is something that I'm super interested in and I like want to work on, right?
Okay.
And like if I say there's some field and then like I start reading about it, read a couple of papers, attend a couple of talks, then I'm like, ooh, this is super cool, and then like I'm like very interested in it, and then like I go to a different field and then I do the same for it, then I'm interested in that as well. So I have no idea how to kind of like, you know, zone into like one particular field or like region of interest that I could potentially be working in the future. And I just want to kind of hear your take on like how to get there, because I know eventually I have to do it. Like, so yeah.
Okay. So that's a good problem to have. Firstly, it's good to be interested in multiple things. You won't be able to limit yourself like the way you're thinking about for like the longest time. Even right now, like I'm thinking of doing like a genetics kind of thing, but then like I really like dev biology. I mean, when you get to it, there's these courses that IISER takes, which have like these amazing videos that he'll show with like Hawk's genes and like the gastrulation and all. Makes it sound so fun. Like, oh, I can put whatever grows. I forgot the term for it, callus or something, and then it'll become like an organism. Oh, dev biology is so much fun. I like dev biology. Then you do like an ecology course, and you're like, oh wow, we're talking about evolutionary things, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll work in evolutionary biology. So that kind of feeling will come, and it's very normal. So the way I sort of did it is, I had multiple things which I could have been interested in, and I emailed all of these people. And then when I got to talk to like the other people in the field, that sort of made me understand how interested I am. Because reading about it, liking it, that's one part. Then talking to someone about it and still liking it, that sort of like cancels a few more. Then actually like doing homework for it, like while you're applying, you will have to read a lot more papers. So then it doesn't just become like, oh, I'm doing it for the sake of my interest. Then you're doing it with like a focused thing, and then that also will like sort of cancel out a few of your options. Then you'll realize that, oh, I don't really understand immunology very well. Like, oh, there's so many cells, maybe I don't like it. Things like that. That's my perspective on it. You can like immunology. So there are many things like that which will like cut your options, and that sort of helps. And even after that, if you have like multiple interests, it's always good to keep in mind that one particular field is not just one particular field. All these fields are like intermeshed nicely. So you can always talk to a PI who does two things at once, like who does evolutionary biology, but then looks at like the genetics of it. So like the evolution of the genome. And you'll find someone who works on both of them together, and then you'll talk to them and you're like, yeah, I'm interested in both of this and I want to make it into one thing and I want to do that for my PhD. And that conversation is also very fun to have, because with all this interdisciplinary things, there's so many PIs who work on a theme that is just now born out of two different like umbrella fields. So that's how I sort of figured out my interest. And also it's very good to apply to a thing that like a program that allows you to do more things. Like if you're not sure what you're interested in, the US and many other places, they have PhD programs, so you can spend 1 year rotating in different labs, and you can do some other courses, and that will also like help you, give you some extra time to sort of understand what you're interested in, compared to when you apply to Europe. While it saves you some time, you can finish your PhD faster. You're applying to a specific lab, and then you're applying to that particular niche, that particular field. So then you can make a choice between like what direction you want your PhD program to take. So if you're like super interested in one particular lab, one particular PI, he gave a talk. There's one big talk coming in IISER. There was an advertisement. So you like that particular PI's talk, and you're like, oh, I really want to work on that particular project. Then you apply to that, and then if that interest shows in your SOP, you'll get through it very easily. But if you're not sure, then you can apply to like a program where the institute has like multiple like schools which have like all of the interests that you want, and you can rotate in all of those labs and you see how it looks like. So there are many options. You just need to read about it, just need to figure it out.
Right. Thank you.
No problem. More questions? There's still time. If I didn't answer any previous question to your liking, you can re-ask the question. When did I start? About 2 months before I had to send it. So I started like just when 5th year started. I think June or July. But it's always good to start earlier. It's good to start sooner, but then maybe after I started after my minor project, because I wanted to write about my minor project in my SOP. So I was doing like the write-up for the minor project and all that, and then you can take like the whatever you wrote in that, you can put it into your SOP. So I did it step by step in that manner.
So I had a question, which was, can you hear me? Yeah. Neetu, my question was, since you worked in like research in India, you've done Europe, and now you're in the US, what are like the kuti differences? What is interesting about one place, different about another place? Stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So I'll say only the good things first. So research in India is what we're all exposed to, and IISER in particular is good because everyone talks to each other, and it's a very collaborative space. So that's very nice. Like you can, and it's very approachable to like, especially in IISER because we all live together. People don't have to go home. It's very easy to like just catch one PhD and just like irritate him into telling him about your project and sort of like get your interest working. So that's one good benefit of our IISER. The Europe was nice because it was my first experience to an international lab. So there were like people from different fields, people who have not fields from different countries, and who have worked in many different places, have come to like one particular place, and they each have their own experiences. So I got to like really learn about how science works in different places from them, and also in the lab that I was working in. And the US, so far, I haven't worked in a lab. I'm still doing courses, so I don't know how the lab works exactly. But I think it'll take like the same turn where like people from different walks are just like coming to one place and working on similar projects. So one thing about, I guess, abroad is that it has a more of an international setting, at least the places that I've been. So you get to learn from different people who have worked in like many places all around the world. While in India, they're like the people who are there have all worked in like very similar sort of like, they're all from IISER, they're all from NITs, IITs, DU and all that. So like you know their background, like, and it's very easy to like, and like you can very easily assume that your background, their background is the same. But then when you go outside, then you're like, your backgrounds are different, and you can learn about how they did things, and then you can take that into like consideration for yourself. You're like, oh, okay, people do it this way, maybe I'll try it, and things like that. That's the end of my answer, by the way.
Got it.
Okay. I thought you were waiting for more. I was like, I have nothing else to say.
No, I was just looking at the questions if there were any. But yeah, Anybody else? Any questions?
Let's go. We can take a break also if people want.
Yeah.
It's already 9.
Yeah. It's Kandi in the mess though.
Eesh.
Yeah. So yeah, if any of you have any questions, you can say it
So
or
I'll
type it out.
I'll drop my information here. I don't know why I
Yes.
can't share my screen. It's not letting me. I'm still figuring out this laptop. Sorry about that. I spent effort on this first slide. I put like the logo and everything. Okay, I'll drop my information here. Send a file to Anaga. Yes, that is also
Yeah.
possible. But it's honestly it's just going to be what I write right now.
I mean, I can present it if you send it here. If you
Oh,
want.
that way. Yeah, that is a good idea. Let's do that. Give me 1 second. Sending it. Okay. Oof. So many things on my computer. I'm using my Gmail. Give your email ID.
Mine.
Yeah.
Anagha Muralidharan 20. Should I type it out?
Yeah. You're gonna say it. I'll type it.
I was like,
Are there other things happening in the meantime? Just like speak up. It doesn't have to be related to this also. You can be like normal random questions.
Yeah, you can ask him what he's been cooking. It's pretty
I've been cooking
impressive.
some fun things, huh? You should. That's a good
Very
question to ask.
What is your favorite toothpaste, Shelley?
Close up. You can hate me.
Same. No, why would I thought it was a good one.
Close
The
up is a
red
good one.
color.
Yeah, I like close up.
Yeah.
Okay, sent it. And it sounds like you got it also.
Do they Krishna has asked a very good question.
No jet sprays here. But get a mug if you're coming to the US. Mug is important. I have 2. Close up is very spicy. Yeah, and in many cases that's exactly what you need. Mallu PhDs. You got some hate from Mallu PhDs? What is your question? Akila, speak up.
Akila, it's a statement, I think.
Yeah, because I saw this once before and I didn't understand, so I just ignored it because there are things happening. Secrets of the mess. The mess is very malleable. If you ask the right people, you can get things done. It's my only secret. We were gonna have a discussion about all the ways. Yeah, let's do it. They're not I think what you're talking about is the Kerala Association of Kansas City. No, they're not PhDs.
Oh yeah.
The Kerala Association is like people from Kerala who are in Kansas.
You did find that one person from Trivandrum who recognized that you were wearing a Valkala shirt.
Yeah. I think what happened, I realized later, was that he knew about me before I came because our bios were on the website. And then he's like, oh, Trivandrum. And then he came out. And yeah, he also knows Lakshmi ma'am, which is very cool. Small world. We took a selfie and we sent it to her. And then she had only nice things to say about me, which was also very lucky.